All right. So, credit to the Night Panda for the text of those great summaries. So, do you feel
You're
confident?
welcome.
Do you feel confident, Panda, for this match?
To answer your question, I feel somewhat confident about Rehoboam's chances here. It's been a quite a bumpy road getting to the quarterfinals, and certainly with the first initial version of Rehoboam for this tournament, there was no way it would have had a chance against Shadow. But I think I rounded out enough edges for it to be maybe a small favorite to take the win here. Um, I think Shadow and Rehoboam can take games from each other in any format, but I do think, especially in in the 1v1s and the 2v2s, I do think Rehoboam has an edge, and maybe Shadow has a small edge in the bigger team games.
Okay. I just increased the sound for your voice, so I think that it might be better for the viewers. I've got the feeling that the latest update you made looked to help a lot Rehoboam. It looks, yeah, it looks to be well as buggy, so it's already a great achievement. And
So maybe we should just, if any new people are to be joining the stream or will be watching this VOD, um, so Rehoboam is an AI made for Definitive Edition only, and was never really intended to play on user patch. But since this tournament was played on user patch, I spent some time trying to make it somewhat compatible with user patch, and this was not easy, and ultimately it's not fully compatible. It can play on user patch, but it's around like 70-80% of its the strength, and it probably will never get beyond that. But I just wanted to compete in this tournament, so I did it anyway, and hopefully it will give some great games.
all right. So here in the screen we can see the statistic obtained by both of the AIs. Um, Regarding at those statistics, we can see that Shadow looked to have um, well, maybe easier games, or at least it achieved more than Rehoboam did, with 27 games won and 3 losses only. The whole matches were won by Shadow, 9 wins, 0 losses, while Rehoboam did have some troubles because of some bugs, because of maybe some worthy opponents. I'm thinking of um, Immortal, of course, which defeated Rehoboam 4-0 previously. So the statistic for Rehoboam is 20 weak, 21 and 11 lost. And
Yeah, it
Rehoboam
sh it
managed
should
to
probably also
lose.
be mentioned that some of those losses are admin losses due to let's
Exactly,
call
this
it
is right.
inconsistency
In fact, there
yeah,
are two
inconsistencies
games.
in the
Yeah,
bugs.
yeah, two games where admin win for the opponent. Um, so in fact, we can consider that it's more 9 loss and 2 admin win, or admin loss, I would say. But we can see that Rehoboam did lose one unique match over 9 matches, so it's not that bad for Rehoboam.
Sure. Yeah, and losing against the model doesn't really feel like losing.
Yeah, that's right. After what I have seen with Tribal, I would say that losing against Immortal looks kind of something normal. All right, so Maybe I can put some music in background.
Sure.
All right, so the deal is um, TheNightPanda is gonna start casting the first game, um, and we've got some hope to see Fireball coming to co-cast the next few games. It's a best of 7, so we've got at least 4 games and maybe more. I assume that Rehoboam didn't watch the recorded games I just sent him, so um, well, I guess that you don't know the final result. Anyway, I just sent you 4 games, and
Yeah, yeah. I have the first game ready.
yep. All right, just let me decrease a bit the music. Okay, it might be fine that way. Um,
Oh, and by the way, Esty, I think a good way to do it is that for every 5 minutes for the first game here, I'll just say the timestamp from my perspective out loud, and if it
yes.
somewhat matches your timestamp, then I think we're good.
Okay, that's right. So I need to focus on the list of recorded games. That's a lot of games. Okay, this is the first one. Just let me check something. Everything looks fine. I will put um, capture rate for the people. Okay, so we will start, and second 10 we just pause. That's right.
Yes,
Okay.
and remember double speed.
Yep. Um, when do you click double speed? After having unpaused or? Okay. What I suggest is
Uh,
just
yeah,
going to second 10, and we will see.
sure.
Okay, I am
Good.
second
I'm
10.
ready when you are.
So let's
Right.
press
So
one
we
times
unpause
twice
in
the speed. That's it.
yes,
And
and then we unpause in 3. Are you ready?
yeah, yes, I'm ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, let's go.
All right, so here we are. I guess Esty will be controlling the camera, um, and I'll just start casting. So, in the blue, we have Rehoboam, named Bughoboam here for the many bugs during the tournament. Um, the map seems fairly nice. Um, decent forests, blackberries, front gold, but can't have it all. And yeah, found its sheep a bit late, but besides that, looks fairly good, I'd say. And in the other side, we have Shadow playing in the red. And Shadow, let's see. Yeah, Shadow doesn't seem to have the best map. The wood lines are okay. Both the gold and the berries are forward. I guess the gold doesn't matter as much for Shadow, as it always goes for skirmishes, so it won't really matter as much having a front goal. And I can say SD, my current timestamp is 5.5 minutes now. Does it match yours? I guess Esty isn't here, but actually, yeah,
This is right.
like it's
It was 5 minutes.
it matched. Oh, mine was 5.5 when I said so. Now it's 7:10. Does it match yours?
Let me check. It's kind of complicated because when I'm on Capture Rage, I can't see the game time. 7 minutes right now. 7 minutes. It's okay?
Oh, okay. Then we have a problem. My game is running faster than yours.
Ah,
Um, I guess I'll just have to cast cast the stream then probably.
yeah, maybe.
Otherwise, we'll have to do it in either that or we'll have to do it in real time because my game is running, I think,
Faster
like
than mine.
10% faster than yours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sex.
I'll just talk with the stream on then. That's fine. All right. Anyways, so for this matchup, we have two of the most aggressive AIs in the tournament. Um, so we should expect games that are relatively short and will be decided relatively early. Um, of these two AIs, there's absolutely no doubt that Shadow is the more aggressive AI, and I would say that the the less like the more even the AIs are, the later we get into the game, the better for Rehoboam. Shadow kinda needs to do damage early in some form. Um, so so I would expect most of these games, or at least the 1v1s and the 2v2s, to be decided within the first, or at least to have an idea of who the winner's gonna be in the first 20 minutes. Um, as that's usually when these AIs like to, or about 20 minutes is when Rehoboam usually gets fully online. So if Shadow hasn't done significant damage before that point, um, then it's gonna be harder to shut down Rehoboam. And so far, the it looks fairly even. Looks like none of the AIs had any significant bugs. I would say that the lumber camps of Shadow are a bit questionable. They're very forward. Maybe it didn't scout enough of its wood lines in time before building the lumber camps. So that could be an issue if Rehoboam attacks it there. And Shadow's tower doesn't really protect anything. That's, yeah, also not the best for Shadow. But here we see the first attack coming in. Um, Shadow likes to go for skirms and will do a lot of hit and run micro, as will Rehoboam. So these first fights will be very decisive for how the game goes. Shadow also likes to mix in a few spears with its army to counter enemy scouts, but now the spear is dead, so Rehoboam's scout can start poking at the archers. And yeah, so far this looks like a pretty good fight for Rehoboam, or at least if you can call it a fight, more or less just a good some catches along the way while Shadow was retreating. So yeah, looking pretty good for Rehoboam here. I would say usually Shadow will actually be ahead in military production at this point, so maybe Shadow had a bit of a weaker start than normally. As Shadow doesn't have to go for a mining camp or anything. So yeah. And the thing about Rehoboam's macro is that it's usually, compared to other AIs, it tends to be, the macro tends to be stronger the bigger the armies are, especially against Shadow, um, which doesn't have any anti-overkill macro, so it will only try to kill one unit at a time usually. Looks like we may have the first big fight here, or maybe not. The armies are kind of dancing around the forest, but this is good for Rehoboam. Getting some nice idle time out of all the woodcutters. which means that Shadow will have less wood to pump into farms and into skirmishes. We have fairly even military counts at this point, but Rehoboam has killed a lot of villagers mainly it seems, being ahead by 10 builds at this point. Um, this looks pretty bad for Shadow here. Um, we haven't had any big army fights yet. Looks like we may have some of it now. The armies are dancing around. Shadow does have a tower to help here, but is it enough? I'm not sure it is. Yeah, in the meanwhile, we can see Rehoboam is on the way to Castle Edge. And judging from the resources, Shadow is still quite far away. This is probably due to losing bills and having a lot of idle time for Shadow, but also Shadow does tend to have slightly slower Castle Age times than Rehoboam. And we have Rehoboam retreating here. I think it just doesn't want to fight too much before getting its Castle Age upgrades, which it's gonna get now. Yeah, and this is looking like a GG push from Rehoboam here. Yeah, actually Shadow just resigned. So yeah, a pretty quick game and a pretty I would say from my test games against Shadow, this is not how they usually go. Usually Shadow actually gets a small lead in early Fuel Age, but in the 1v1s. But I guess the either something went very right for Rehoboam or something went wrong for Shadow, as it didn't have enough of a military lead to want to take fights early. So Rehoboam could just pick off units while it was retreating. So yeah, that's a 1-0 for Rehoboam. I don't know, Esty, if you can maybe slow the speed down just a tiny bit in the game, or how I'm not sure how that works with Capture H. It's a little hard to keep track of everything with the game running that fast, but it's probably too slow if it's just normal speed. So I don't know. And of course, if anyone has any questions in the chat about the AIs or anything else, feel free to ask. I imagine SD is preparing the second game, so in the meantime, I can maybe talk a little bit about some of the I don't know what I should talk about. I could talk about what to maybe expect from the other games. I haven't watched the games, but I have done quite some test games versus Shadow. And the 2v2 is usually quite similar to the 1v1 with Rehoboam wanting to get a big army out, and then usually it can take good fights. But the 3v3s and 4v4s tends to be more in Shadow's ballpark, as it it usually manages to do a lot of damage to the flanks there. So I wouldn't say anything is. I wouldn't take too much away from how the 1v1 and the 2v2 goes necessarily, as this is not where Shadow is the strongest usually in this matchup, at least. Randy, you ask whether Rehoboam is full skirm now. It's not. Rehoboam's base build, I guess you could call it, is to make archers and just a fast feudal archer rush into knights in Castle Age. But it will, if it sees the enemy, sure, Esty, you can start the next game. That's fine. Um, but if the enemy, if Rehoboam scouts the enemy is going for ranged units, it will instantly switch into full skirms. So yeah, I'm watching the stream, Esty. That's correct. I think that's how we have to do it. Um, since my game is running at a different speed. But yeah, Randy, it only goes full skirms as a response to the enemy going for ranged units. It won't go skirms on its own, so to say. Um, and actually, after the last one of the last updates, it also won't make any skirms in 3v3s and 4v4s at all, which sometimes is good, sometimes is bad. But I've found it to work better in the late game, at least, to have more crossbows in the army there. So nope, no full skirms, but against Shadow it will go skirms in 1v1 and 2v2, as Shadow always goes for ranged units. Okay, we are heading into the 2v2 here, and we have, seems like we have a decent start for all the AIs. At least I see no AI has done Loom yet, which, oh actually Rehoboam just did Loom there. But that usually is a good indicator of having a somewhat smooth start. If the AIs doesn't have to do Loom right at the start, then it means that they found their sheep. Yeah, and yeah, blue space looks quite decent here. Front berries, but everything else in the back. Green space also looks decent. Nice deer position overall from green. If it, yeah, and it also started luring them, so maybe we can get a lot of those this game. And also back resources from green. So overall, I would say I'm quite pleased with the start from Rehoboam in this game. Rehoboam is... oh, actually, Rehoboam seems to be missing a boar. The blue Rehoboam. I'm not sure what's going on there, why it's not lured in its second boar yet. Yeah, that could be trouble if it doesn't get the boar. But I was about to say Rehoboam is an AI that's very dependent on getting its deer lured, as it doesn't really it's not great at building extra farms to compensate if it doesn't find its deers. So I'm not sure if that boar is too far away for Rehoboam to lure it, or if it just didn't scout it. But yeah, that could be trouble. Or actually, judging from the minimap, it seems to be taking the boar now. I hope it actually managed to lure the boar. Sometimes Rehoboam fails to lure boars if it does it very late. Can be quite buggy at times. Alright. Yeah, it actually seems to have failed luring the boar here. So we could maybe see blue getting a bit behind, not having that extra food. It's a bit hard watching all this in fast speed when I'm not controlling the camera to judge how the early ages are going. I don't have high hopes for this boar to ever get properly lured. Rehoboam isn't really made to lure boars in this age. So yeah, I don't know how that's gonna go, but the military population so far doesn't seem too far behind from blue, so maybe it'll be okay. Um, it has built a tower at least. And a lot of farms, it seems. Yeah, now the military population for blue is far behind suddenly. And I think that is the, yeah, that's just the lack of food from not having that boar. So we see the first micro battle here from green and red. And we see red being also pretty far behind in military, which is to be expected in this matchup. Both due to Rehoboam not being as effective on user patch and also as a consequence of having to build a mining camp first and read task bills, and also the fact that Rehoboam gets horse collar, which Shadow doesn't, mean that Rehoboam will tend to be behind in military. But it seems like green took some good fights so far, which is looking promising. And that is what Rehoboam needs to hope for in the early game before matching the military count of Shadow for the micro to make the difference. So far it looks good for green, but not so good for blue. Having 2 losses so far, it seems. I would say I like blue's position now, though. When it has like 20 plus ranged units, it's usually a lot stronger. Like the micro difference between Shadow and Rehoboam isn't that big when the armies are small, but when the armies are big, I would say Rehoboam has quite a decisive edge usually. And as I somewhat mentioned before, that's due to the anti-overkill functions of Rehoboam, which makes it able to shoot several units at the same time. Immortal is the only other AI to have that system as well, or at least the only AI who will shoot an infinite amount of units this way. And we seem to have somewhat of a base race between yellow and blue here. Oh, okay, now blue is bringing back its army. But yeah, blue is certainly behind now compared to yellow. But I think green has an edge. Yeah, green is already up to the castle age. And here we see one of the things Shadow will like to do is make an extra archer army. So it will have just that little army to walk around in the enemy base, killing some extra units. And then it will have its main army somewhere else. Sometimes it can be hard for Rehoboam to know which army to fight. Oh, and here we have Shadow trying to retreat into the army of Rehoboam. Oh, that's a big fight for Rehoboam there. Yeah, actually looks like Shadow's entire army is gonna be cleaned up here. That's pretty big. That's like almost 40 units lost in less than a minute. That is something that's actually quite hard to code the AI not to retreat into enemy armies. This is some of the one feature I added to Rehoboam to make it stop doing that. It is quite tricky to make. Still, it's not over, and yellow is doing a good job here, having a nice KD, and also almost matching the castle age time of Rehoboam. However, it will need to retreat here, or Rehoboam will easily win that fight with all the castle age upgrades. Shadow really needs to get upgrades ASAP here for yellow to have a chance. I'm not sure why yellow is not getting any upgrades for his skirmishes. There we go, okay. It was a bit late there. But I guess it's almost got as much military as blue here. Not sure why blue is retreating. guess it changed his mind. But yeah, this is the point in the game where all of the extra resources from Shadow will be poured into military and mangonels and knights, whereas Rehoboam will pour all of its extra military or all its extra resources into TCs and villager production. So it's possible that yellow can still catch up. However, it looks like green is done killing red here, and the two Rehoboams will now team up on yellow, who has the best chance of hurting the Rehoboams here. And yellow is actually holding on fairly well still. But yeah, fighting against 80 Rehoboam micro units seems like quite a daunting task here. Yellow is also doing some damage with his crossbows, but not enough, I fear. And even though we have knights against skirmishers, there's simply just too much military to realistically fight this. I'm not sure if Shadow made a mangonel yet. That would probably be the best or the only chance of a comeback here, though I think the chances of that happening are approaching 0 here, as half of Yellow's equal is idle, and Rehoboam has about twice the population now. Yeah, this looks kind of over. Rehoboam will always go into knights in Castle Age and 3 TC boom on top of that. Not making any more ranged units. And this is just a relic of the past, where when I just started scripting, I just found this was the military composition requiring the least amount of macro in the different stages of the game. So it's not really any brilliant tactic or anything. It just kind of happened. Alright, I guess some people have asked some questions in the chat while the game is kind of over here. Randy is asking whether no food has been dropped to prevent early loom. Rehoboam does drop off food, yeah. So if it does early loom, it's only because it finds its sheep so late that it can't maintain villager production in spite of food dropping. Oh, and Games got us here as well. That's cool. We have some new people here. Welcome, welcome everyone. Yeah, I'm not sure how much more to talk about the game. It's it seems pretty over here. Or it is over, I would say. Like Rehoboam does bug out big time sometimes, but Shadow doesn't really have the threat level to come back from this position. And I guess Esty is also speeding up the game a bit more here. Rehoboam is still very unfinished in many ways, so it won't completely kill its enemy usually in before the Imperial Age. So that's why it sometimes will ignore the TC even if it has a huge army and the enemy is already dead. It will still be scared of the TC and not try to kill it or anything. But yeah, that's a 2-0 for Rehoboam here. I would say Rehoboam is quite a solid favorite in 1v1 and 2v2, um, at least in my test games as well. But in the 3v3s and the 4v4s, at least my experience is that the games can go either way. Um, uh, Almost 50-50, I would say. And usually these games are played very differently. The 3v3 will usually be against Shadow being the aggressor, and sometimes Rehoboam and Shadow will go and have the pockets support the same flank. Other times they will have the pockets support the opposite flank, leading to a base race situation. So it's gonna be exciting to see which of these scenarios we will have here. So for this 3v3, we again have no loom being done yet. I guess, oh, I spoke too soon. Both AIs are doing loom now, so I guess yellow and teal may have had a slightly worse start. It's a bit hard to speak this fast and introduce all the maps with the game running in fast speed. So I think I'll just talk a bit less and focus on if I see anything out of the ordinary. Mainly comment on that. So far, everything seems to be working decently for Rehoboam from what I've seen. All of Rehoboam getting loom usually means the board is far away. But yeah, Rehoboam starting luring deer here. That's also an indication it found all its resources, as it won't lure deer unless it has found all resources. I don't know that much about how Shadow does, like how Shadow is coded. We actually plan to have Fireball streaming here as well, but I'm not sure if he knows that the stream is happening at this point in time. At least we haven't been able to get a hold of him, so. But yeah, looks like actually it looks like yellow has had some idle TC here, being behind a little over one villager. Not sure why. It's, yeah, again, it's a bit hard to judge these things. And we have Rehoboam having trouble luring this deer in. This is actually very bad for the blue Rehoboam, as the deer is completely standing still on that hill. Yeah, and as I said, Rehoboam is relying a lot on getting all the steers in order for its builds to work. Hopefully it will manage to get that deer lured at some point in time. But yeah, besides that, everything is looking fairly even here. Nothing extraordinary as far as I can see. Just yellow being a bit behind, having some idle TC. So, in this game, we will have Rehoboam going for archers only, no skirmishes, which will leave it vulnerable usually. Oh, this is bad. The scout from Rehoboam bugging out. Yeah, teal isn't scouting the enemy at all, which usually means that Rehoboam will not attack at all. That could be a problem, obviously. Yeah, I think the issue is that the pathfinding of the scout makes it so that if the scout gets a different command every time, it will use two different ways to get around the forest. Yeah. So we could see Teal be in some troubles here. But anyway, Rehoboam won't attack at this point in the game. But the issue with the scout not being used to find the enemy is that it can't be used to fight, which is usually what saved Rehoboam in the early game from dying to the skirmishes. So far it's taken quite a decent start here, doing some damage to the skirmishes. I'm not taking any eco damage. Also building a tower now on its gold. Doesn't look like too much happened at green's side. Yeah. Does look like the gold mills is a bit bugged here, so not the smoothest start from Rehoboam here, that's for sure. Also, Rehoboam's castle time is 2 minutes later than it should be for the pockets, so a lot of bugs here for Rehoboam this game, it seems. But fortunately, no big fights yet, which is usually in Rehoboam's favor. Especially if it can kill some retreating units from Shadow. It looks like that's the case here, somewhat at least. And at Teal's side, it seems to have killed a few more units. So, and obviously, we have Shadow has the far better army here, but is a bit scared of taking fights in the early game. And it looks like both pockets went to the same side here, leading to the Teal's base being the center of attention. So far, Teal seems to have defended fairly well overall, and this is where it's nice for Teal to have archers instead of skirmishes, as it can kill the knights much easier. But it is quite far behind military though, so not the best position still. The tower is helping out a lot though. Very nicely placed, right on the entrance to all of its resources. On green's side, things are looking pretty even, though green is up to castle age. So I would say Shadow has a window of the next few minutes where it kind of has to do some damage on one of the sides, or I would expect Rehoboam to take a lead if that doesn't happen. Doesn't look like green is in some trouble here. Yeah, green is losing quite a bit here. Being behind by 15 villagers at this point, that's pretty big. Green is up to the castle age though, so if it can do damage to red before red gets castle age and gets upgrades, it might. Doesn't matter that Rehoboam lost all those units. And on Teal's side, it looks like Teal has defended very well. Very nice kill death ratio for Teal at least. And in the meanwhile, we have the Rehoboam pocket booming, unlike the Shadow pocket. So I would say it's looking very good for Rehoboam here. Yeah, and as expected, Red has trouble fighting the Castle Age army of Green here. Actually, it looks like Green is retreating now, as it saw Red hit Castle Age, but also seems like Green did sufficient damage to at least make it somewhat even. Yeah, Green looks a bit confused, but still manages to kill some extra vills. And I would say it's looking quite dim for Shadow here. Um, Now Teal is Castle Age as well, so I don't really see Shadow winning either side now. Um, Unless maybe Red can take a good fight. It does still have counter units on this side, but it's a bit scared of fighting, which is something that Shadow tends to be a bit too unconfident with its army. Sometimes retreating a bit too much. Um, it is something that's really hard to code when an army should fight or not. Seems like Rehoboam still hasn't gotten its Castle Age upgrades, despite being up to Castle Age. Usually that's because it's lacking food, which I imagine is the case here as well. This could actually give Shadow a chance to get back into the game, but yeah, now it looks like it got its upgrades anyway. Probably Teal was just harassed a lot, leading to it not getting enough food to both keep full production and get upgrades. Oh, and we have yellow, the yellow pocket of Shadow starting to attack the blue pocket of Rehoboam here. This is usually quite a good strategy against Rehoboam, as it's got terrible defense, but I think blue is too far ahead here economically for it to matter, and it also seems to have enough knights to defend the attack. So we have a castle coming up in yellow space. Maybe it expects to be attacked soon. At least I'm pretty sure Shadow doesn't make any berserks. I guess now the blue pocket is being doubled here. This could actually be quite some trouble for Rehoboam. This is a lot of units, and Teal doesn't seem to be doing anything with its army here. Also green seems quite passive with its army. So actually we might have a comeback here from Shadow, as both Rehoboam flanks are playing way too passive here. Question is if they can do enough damage to blue to prevent it getting up to... Actually, why is blue not going imp here? It has plenty of resources to go imp. Is it missing a building? No? Maybe it just doesn't have enough knights to want to go up to the next stage. That's sometimes an issue. We actually have Teal helping out blue here. That's not intentional, I can say. Rehoboam doesn't have any ally defending features. It probably just saw the army of purple entering its own base and decided to go attack the army. But yeah, that actually helped a lot, getting those ranged units out of the base. That means blue only has to deal with yellow. Yeah, and red and green seems to be quite even here. Green is up to the Imperial Age, but yeah, but still fairly even on that side. So this is by far the most even game we've had yet. I still wouldn't say it's close to being over, though I do favor Rehoboam's position. Though not if not if blue never gets up to Imperial Age. Yeah, I'm not sure who to favor here. It looks quite messy everywhere. Populations are also pretty even. We still have blue being doubled as well. Yeah, but blue not going up to imp here might be hurting Rehoboam a lot. And we have chemistry coming in for Teal here. It could actually be pretty good against the skirms, though I'm not sure if it will jump on the army. This is a very weird game. I don't think I've seen a game this even at this point in the game. There's no usually games between Rehoboam and Shadow is sort of a base race where everyone kind of dies early. But this game we have 6 players being alive and well, and the Rehoboam flanks are the ones who will have to save the day here. The Rehoboam pocket still not being up to Imperial Age, being under constant raids from yellow. But yeah, fortunately Rehoboam's macro is very strong for situations like this, even though it's crossbows fighting skirms, it's the superior micro is keeping it in the game. And hopefully the imp upgrades will start to kick in at some point for Rehoboam. Though I do fear actually for Rehoboam here, as as blue seems to be slowly dying now. And the military population of Shadow is quite scary here. So this could be the 2-1 maybe. Score is also closing in. Shadow is now both ahead in villagers and in army. Just behind in technology, but not sure how much that will matter if the target dies. It seems like Rehoboam's pocket is pretty dead here. Yeah, we have the score switching now. Shadow's military population is looking very healthy. In fact, Purple is switching its focus back to Teal now. And it's nearing pop cap. Yeah, and it does have perfect units to counter Teal's army. Usually the flanks, or Teal in this case, would assume that the pocket is supporting it with knights, which is not the case. It does fortunately have chemistry on its crossbows, but they're still crossbows. Looking like quite a mess here. The score is now in favor of Rehoboam, but I think that's just a matter of having more kills. I don't think Rehoboam is ahead here. Probably also some technology score in that. We have the population of Rehoboam slowly declining. I don't think Rehoboam can hold this. Alright, let's check the chat here. Randy, no. Rehoboam will not do any scums here. Rehoboam is not really the kind of AI to react that much to what the enemy is doing. It's not that I didn't want to make this, I just never really knew how to do it in a good way that would be fast to make. Unfortunately, the way Rehoboam is scripted makes it very hard to make adjustments. So it's not really something that's on the cards either, or in the cards. Rehoboam is still holding on here. It's got nice defensive castles keeping it alive. So yeah, but I would still say it's looking pretty good for Shadow here. Not sure how Shadow will break those castles though. We have seen Shadow have troubles earlier in this tournament with defensive castles. So that could be a saving grace for Rehoboam, but I still doubt that it will be able to hold on here. There's simply just too much military from Shadow to defend against, and Rehoboam is still only making archers or these ranged units against the Knight Skirm combo. Yeah, I think this is the slow and steady end for Rehoboam in this game. At least the population for elite for Shadow has increased quite significantly in the last few minutes. And while blue is somewhat starting to boom back, it's not doing so nearly fast enough to look convincing here. Shadow is losing quite a few units to the castles at Rehoboam though. It's quite silly. Theoretically, if the game goes on for long enough, I'm not sure who's the favorite here. I'm not sure. I don't even know if Rehoboam has started making trade yet. Usually the pockets will always be the ones starting the trade in team games, but doesn't look like the flanks are missing gold at least. They are missing resources in general though, especially food. Yeah, no trade. Oh, actually Teal might be starting to do some trade now. It may be waiting to get a certain technology. I think actually it want to get Cap Ram or something before it starts getting trade, I don't remember. And we have what might be a third castle from Teal here to make sure this game will never ever end. I'm not sure what to... Oh no! Teal skipped that castle. That was maybe a questionable decision. I think it could have done the castle up there. I'm not sure if the third castle would have made the difference in the same spot at least. Teal does look to have a healthy population now, and it should have most of its upgrades at this point. One thing I do fear for Rehoboam is that it will run out of gold relatively soon. It's going for quite a gold-heavy composition here, which could spell trouble later in the game, as Shadow's composition, or at least the what's it called, the flanks from Shadow, doesn't really use any gold in their composition. Though Shadow may actually be running out of gold for the pocket, I'd imagine, at this point, not doing any trade. That could be an issue as well. And also we have blue, somewhat healthy pop here, 70 volts. Though I'm not sure if blue will ever have enough gold to advance to the Castle Age. Yeah, its ego doesn't really look efficient either. It usually talks out quite a bit if its base is almost destroyed, so too much faith in blue in this game. But yeah, teal and green seems to be holding the defensive castles from Rehoboam is just really the kryptonite of Shadow, it seems. Shadow doesn't make that much siege, so getting castles down is usually quite difficult. Yeah, and we have all AIs at this point lacking gold, it seems. We have reached 1 hour of game time, and we still have kind of a stalemate where Shadow has very clear lead in population, or not as clear now, but still a lead in population. And Rehoboam has basically only survived by sitting behind its wall of castles and letting Shadow throw units into the meat grinder. Yeah. And actually blue is slowly and steadily booming up, so it can maybe get back into the game in a few minutes. And it looks like teal has actually started making trade here, which won't matter for the next 5 to 10 minutes, but if this game keeps going like it has been going for the past 30 minutes, then maybe the trade will kick in at some point. This is a weird game. I've never seen a game like this between Rehoboam and Shadow. Both of these AIs doesn't really have any any plan for the late game, you could say. They just hope to win early and then have a late game that can somewhat still play on from that lead. Yeah, Toto, Shadow never goes to Imperial Age, it never builds extra TCs, and it never builds any trade. So he won't, and he won't be doing that either. Now we actually have a population lead, or maybe, I guess, similar populations. Small population lead for Rehoboam, who is still lacking gold, it seems, but I'm not sure why green Rehoboam is not selling its wood. Maybe I forgot to make market rules for that. It would probably be best to just sell some wood for gold at this point and get some extra trade on the field. But yeah, the military numbers of Shadow is declining. At this point, the military counts are even, and we have blue actually making military again. Not sure where it got the gold to do this. And it has some questionable farm setup as well, but even though Rehoboam is not known for a great late game, I guess if there's one AI, one top AI it can beat in the late game, it's probably Shadow. I'm not sure how much longer this game can go on for, as none of these AIs were really ever made to play in this sort of game. So yeah, it can. It looks like Rehoboam will take this game after all, but it may take some time before. Oh, looks like Rehoboam was missing some building to build farms, and now it built like 60 farms at once or something. The blue Rehoboam. Not sure what happened there. Those are the kind of bugs that just randomly happen on user patch for Rehoboam, which I won't ever find out why. But yeah, Shadow's military count is now very low. Not sure if it's because it's run out of gold or if it just lost too many mills. At least it looks like Rehoboam slowly and steadily are pushing. And we now both have a villager and a military lead for Rehoboam. The Rehoboam pocket is still not still not Imperial Age. And I'm not sure if it will ever get to Imperial Age because it doesn't have any trade or any vills and golds. If it maybe occasionally, if the flanks get enough trade, they will start slinging their gold to blue. That could be a way for it to get back. I'm sad to see that none of the AIs are selling their extra wood. As I'm pretty sure I made the rule for that, but maybe I made something wrong with the conditions for that rule. Yeah, this is a very strange game indeed. But looks good for Rehoboam, I'd say. As without any trade, I don't think Shadow will be able to break Rehoboam if it hasn't been able to break Rehoboam at this point. Alright, let's check the chat here. Teal sends flares near the map edge. Is this a bug? No, Randy. I think those flares are probably just Teal building its markets. I'm not sure, but that would be my best guess. Alright. Yeah, now the population lead for Rehoboam is pretty significant here. And we even have the flanks having a surplus of gold at this point, which could lead to them start slinging blue soon, hopefully. Steel has very healthy golds now. Not sure why it's not slinging any of it. Maybe it's because blue is still Castle Age or something. Not sure. We see Rehoboam selling a lot of food for gold, but not selling any wood. Yeah, I guess the market rules were never tested in this weird sort of scenario where it's still Castle Age in 1 minute 15. But yeah, slowly and steadily Rehoboam is reaching pub cap, while it looks like purple is almost dead here. Yeah, so it's the thing about this experience is that it happens so rarely, and it's not really something either of these AIs were designed for, and it's very hard to test for these sorts of things because they happen so rarely. And since there is no more room for updates in this tournament anymore, I think I'm not sure if this particular market bug will be addressed, or if I'll look into other things. While it's clearly bad that it's not selling its wood, if it's something that happens one game out of 200, it's not always something that's worth spending the time on fixing when other bugs are happening more frequently, but it may be something I'll look into. I'm not sure if Fireball plans for Shadow to ever try and go to Imperial Age. Randy is asking whether Rehoboam can play Persians. It can play Persians, and on I would say on user patch, Persians and Franks are equal in strength, though on DE Franks are still much stronger. And the reason it likes Persians on DE is that the start on DE is usually a bit more. It's harder to find the sheep, so having those extra resources early is nice. And Franks are also just stronger and they have more bonuses. They have the berry collection bonus on DE, so it can play Persians, but it's I, I would still say it prefers Franks on DE, but on user patch it doesn't really care. We can go for 4v4, Esty, sure. I don't need to see Rehoboam get 40k wood before getting imp. I have been it's been a hot game to to cast anyways, but fun to see this sort of game between Rehoboam and Shadow. Certainly not something I've seen in any of my test games. And I guess that's 3-1 for Rehoboam then, which means it looks very good now for Rehoboam. I think Shadow still has a very good chance of winning the 4v4, but after that Shadow will still have to win the basically every single game from here on, and that includes the 1v1s and 2v2s where Rehoboam is probably somewhat of a heavy favorite. So it looks tough for Shadow at this point. I think this was one of the games Shadow had to take to win this set. So let's go for game 4. Alright, Randy, see you. Yeah, I'm not sure why Shadow keeps spamming mining camps. It's not uncommon to see this in AIs if the mining camp building rules doesn't have a condition which says that there has to be gold to build the mining camps next to. Um, Rehoboam has had the same issue in some very early builds. Alright. We go for game 4 here. And I will rest my voice a little bit and just look if there's any inconsistencies anywhere. Everything looks good on Shadow's side, I'd say. Not the best lumber camp for Rehoboam, but it could be worse. Yes, teal and blue does seem to have some trouble with their dealers. Blue has a deer patch on the other side of the forest. But since both of them are pockets, it's probably less of a problem, as the pockets have more time to lure in their deer. So I think Rehoboam will still be okay here. I don't like the the lump camp position of Rehoboam there. Bit unnecessarily forward, but maybe not that big of a deal. Alright, but we have good, or at least decent fuel age times here for Rehoboam. Still, it issues pushing the deer from blue. Yeah, I think blue might have a delayed castle age time from the deer not being properly pushed, but yeah, gray having some trouble with the deer as well. Alright, but so in 4v4, Shadow will have 3 players uh, go for one single flank of the enemy. So this will we'll see a lot of action either at green or gray space this game, I'd imagine. And yeah, the other side usually Rehoboam will win, so it sort of becomes a base trade situation. But yeah, and it all depends who dies the fastest, I guess you could say. And the important thing for Rehoboam is to have sufficient military numbers for the flank that is defending uh, the 3 players, because if it dies too quickly, then Shadow will just shift its focus to the pockets, and as we saw last game, the pockets can have quite some trouble defending when it's being doubled. So yeah, and as expected, we see blue having a delayed castle age time here. Or is it even... Yeah, a delayed castle age time of about a minute. Not as bad as last game though. I do like the military counts of the Rehoboam flanks here. Actually is keeping up quite well with the military of Shadow. Unfortunately for Rehoboam, for the green Rehoboam, Shadow is targeting the opposite lava camp of where Rehoboam has its tower. So still getting harassed a bit, but taking decent fights. And we see the pockets, both the green scout and the pocket scout is helping out in defending. Oh, and we see a lot of villagers bugging out on the wood here for Grey Rehoboam. Actually, Grey Rehoboam is bugging out big time here. Looks like the army is unable to get back to the base due to some pathfinding bugs. So yeah, Grey could be in big trouble here. Already having lost 9 units for Grey. That's quite significant. Green is doing a great job of defending though, and it looks like Grey is the oh no, that was just the its own pocket. Looks like green is gonna be the punching bag this game, having we see both pockets from Shadow streaming units across the map towards green. Fortunately for green, it's actually managed to defend very well from the, even though it's again archers against skirmishers here. It even tries to attack here. That's maybe a bit ballsy, attacking when it's being tripled, but so far it's Shadow is sending in his units one by one. So green is actually getting away with playing very offensively here. Not the best coordination from Shadow here, but also a very good start for green, I must say. Yeah, a nice micro from green as well, and good coordination with blue, giving some meat shield to the archers. Green is even going up to castle age, even though it's being tripled. Usually it doesn't go this well when Rehoboam tries to defend against Shadow. Does look like Grey is in some trouble on this other side though. It still can't get its army around the wood line. Yeah, it's weird how this pathfinding bugs happens more on user patch. I'm not sure if it's just because user patch Arabia has bigger forests, or if the path is just due to the pathfinding being different. But I haven't noticed it on the. Yeah, but I think the fact that green is doing this well spells very nicely for Rehoboam, as that usually means that, or that should mean that the pockets of Rehoboam will be left undisturbed to boom for some more time here. Though no player is really dying, I'd say. Grey is probably the one furthest behind at this point. Or actually, Grey just got Castle Age, despite losing that many units, and it finally had, it finally managed to get its archers away from that wood line. Yeah, I think this is looking very promising for Rehoboam now. If Grey can just defend its side, then the superior boom from the Rehoboam pockets should slowly and steadily win the game here. And Green has really been the MVP of this game here, defending against 3. It did have help from Blue, but still, it usually doesn't. Like, it's not easy defending from Shadow, especially in user patch. Yeah, but now we have both Green and Blue teaming up on Red here, killing a lot of villagers. Red is kind of dead at this point. It just reached Castle Age and got its upgrades, but it lost all its army before getting those, so... And we see, actually we see both the pockets of Shadow turning their attention to Blue now, which is probably the last chance of Shadow here to turn this game around. Blue does have some military, but I think much of it is in the red space. So Blue could be overrun, though nah, it looks like it has enough to defend somewhat for now. And Blue doesn't really have to, like, it doesn't have to win, it doesn't even have to survive, it just has to not die too fast, and then the teal pocket will hopefully get in and carry the rest of the team. And we see Green being done with red at this point and going for the yellow pocket instead, which I think is a good decision here, as that will relieve some pressure on Blue, as Yellow won't be able to afford spamming as many knights here. Blue still has a very healthy population. I think this is the this is gonna be the first 0. I don't really see how Shadow can come back here. It's got less than half the population at this point. And judging from the minimap, it seems like Rehoboam is thinking that orange is dead, and will turn its attention to the last untouched shadow, which is purple. It's also spamming the change target rule. I guess I didn't have time to mute that. But yeah, blue is not getting any more population, but it's surviving. And in the meantime, we have teal on its way to the castle age, or the imperial age, I mean. And yeah, now we can see from the village account of purple that Grey has paid a visit with its crossbow army in purple's base. Shadow is down to less than 40 vills on all its players. Yeah. So this looks to be the 4-0 in the end. Yeah, I'm not sure how much more to comment on this game. Seems to be over. But if anyone has any questions, they can ask away. I'm not sure if Esty will get back on to just talk more, but we will have the semi-finals next weekend, where we will have Immortal against Pharaoh and Rehoboam against Barbarian, it seems. I did expect this series to be more close. In my testing, Shadow usually wins half of the 3v3s and 4v4s. Um, but apparently this wasn't Shadow's lucky day. It was very close to winning the 3v3. I would say it was quite far ahead at some point. And probably the defensive castles was the only reason Rehoboam won the 3v3. Something we have seen Shadow have trouble with earlier in the tournament as well, breaking defensive castles.